Hi, my name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride. The reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. And there's my logo to back it up and prove it. Today is the 18th of May for me. For you, it's probably the 22nd of May. It's Tuesday. Or you might watch it on Sunday the following week. Or if this ever makes a rerun, you'll be seeing me a long time from now. I talked about last week, I talked about the Fort Dix guys and so on and so forth, but mainly talked about my own mouth. Previously, I would never talk about myself on the show. However, we get crotchety as we get old, and I'm doing my best to get deep into my 50s. I just got 4 wisdom teeth and another tooth taken out a week ago Monday, and it's a little bit better, but not a heck of a lot. I finally got my dentist to recognize that I have a problem over here. I had a big giant white spot right here, and in the inside of the upper part of my mouth. One dentist took a look at it and just didn't seem to see a problem with it. But what it was a whole bunch of dead skin that was filling up that basically socket where the tooth used to be, and just hurting like the dickens. Finally, I finally got an appointment with a dentist that cared, and she cut all that stuff out, and I've been on the mend. But still going to work and suffering through this whole thing. I think bravely, but of course here I am complaining about it on TV and just doing the best that I can. So that's part of Fed Pride, and has nothing to do with being a federal worker, but it does have something to do with handling this situation. I'm going to reach back and adjust the zoom over here. Which I never do, and I'm going to see if I can get. All right, I got my my little turny thing, and I'm going to spin the world. The traditional spin the world situation. Right behind me is America, the land that I love, and I'm sure you do too. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects lately, and that is the attempt of the new Russia under Putin to dominate Europe and possibly the rest of the world. We have a situation where in 1989, anybody who remembers that, the Berlin Wall fell. There was a giant concert with Pink Floyd about the song The Wall, or the album The Wall. They played it at the wall itself. And actually, I do have teeth back there. And that was the first step. This was East Germany was a separate country right over here at one time. There's Berlin, which was in East Germany, but part of it was belonged to West Germany, which was over here. When the wall fell very, very quickly, these countries over here left communism. And Poland, Czechoslovakia, which is now Czech Republic and Slovakia, Hungary, East Germany, all fell, at least as fell as communist countries. And the Russian military withdrew. Germany combined into one big country. Doesn't look so big, but it is the 4th largest economy in the world. And Russia became the Soviet, or the Soviet Union still survived and leapt along for about 2 more years. And then Gorbachev was the chairman of the Politburo and the premier of Russia. There was an attempted overthrow by radicals to overthrow Gorbachev. Gorbachev was captured in a port down here in, I think, at the Black Sea, which is kind of the beach resort of Russia. Russia can be said to have a beach resort at all, at least the warmest spot in Russia. And there was a confrontation, and Yeltsin got on a tank, and he was in the Russian parliament. I think he was president of the Russian Soviet Republic. The Soviet Union was a set of Soviet socialist republics, and Russia was just one of them, although it was the dominant one. But the government of the Soviet Union was the dominant government. So the radicals tried to take over the country. Yeltsin resisted in front of the Russian parliament, which is called the White House or the other White House. He got in a tank. He made a very, very noble statement. He just died about a month ago. And the rest of the Soviet Union fell apart, and these countries became independent. The three Balkan countries, or Baltic countries of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. This is Belarus over here, which became a communist or a post-communist dictatorship. This is the Ukraine, which also became a post-communist dictatorship. Here's Kazakhstan, which has tremendous amounts of oil and natural gas, tremendously rich and sparsely populated country. And then down here, this here is Turkmenistan. Ends up that Turkmenistan also has very, very large natural gas resources. Then there's a couple other little ones, Uzbekistan and a few others. And then over here are the Caucasus countries where there's a lot of trouble. This is Georgia. This is Azerbaijan, one of the richest oil-producing countries in the world. And over here is Armenia. Armenia is an enemy of Azerbaijan and Turkey because of a genocide by the Ottoman Turks back in World War I. And actually, Armenia took a little piece of Azerbaijan in an occupation, illegal occupation of Karabakh, Naragaz. Somebody will correct my pronunciation, I'm sure. Then Chechnya, which gets a lot of press, is actually a little associated Soviet republic. That's right about here. And these folks were basically taken over by a guy named Basiev, who was basically an Al-Qaeda type, radical Islamist Muslim. And the Chechens bombed apartment blocks in Moscow, took over a theater, and when the Russians took it back, there were 150 people dead. They took over a school at one time in Beslan, a little community in this region over here in Russia, right near Chechnya. And in that situation, I think a couple hundred little kids, school kids, were killed. So a lot of trouble over here in Chechnya. But what I guess was really not expected, America came in. There was what we call the Nunn-Lugar agreements. And America came in and actually supported Russia, set up a lot of institutes, hired a lot of Russian scientists to work in these institutes so they would keep on having a job, nuclear scientists, biochemical scientists, chemical warfare scientists, set up these institutes so they would stay employed so they wouldn't go to work for our enemies like Iran over here or North Korea. So Russia was basically a basket case. America stepped in. We spent a lot of money. Belarus, the Ukraine, Kazakhstan, each of which had a very, very large nuclear arsenal. Could have been nuclear armed countries. Over here in the western part, what had been then been the Soviet Union, and over here in Kazakhstan. And they basically all voluntarily gave up all their nuclear weapons with American funds, American Russian contractors, but kind of hired by American contractors, but with U.S. dollars, consolidated these weapons into Russia proper, under the START agreements and the new Nunn-Lugard law, and did a very, very good thing, probably possibly saved the world. It's hard to say how hostile these little countries could have been, or whether they might have been taken over by terrorists at one point, or Al-Qaeda. But basically secured all of these nuclear weapons over here, and then spent a lot of money in Russia setting up bases, protecting those bases with nuclear weapons on it, and doing our best to try to keep Russian nuclear weapons during this period of chaos, and also Belarusian and Ukrainian and Kazakhstani weapons from falling into the wrong hands, which could have created basically terrorist nuclear holocaust. Still possible. Everything is not perfect, but we have a program within the United States government. We spend a lot of money, billions and billions, not a lot of publicity, but it happened, and did a very, very good thing in securing a lot of these weapons, and also keeping a lot of Russian scientists from going wild and starving and going to work for our enemies. However, things turned around a few years ago. In the late 90s, Yeltsin retired, and his successor was Putin. And Putin was an ex-KGB agent, basically. Very, very intelligent man. And during this Yeltsin period, even though there were a lot of steps forward as far as freedom of the press, the oligarchs set up independent, government-free TV stations, magazines, newspapers, you name it. And that was a very good thing. And there was a period there when they had 60-minute like TV shows and so on and so forth. All that's pretty much over. The original oligarchs who were told that there were going to be auctions, went in there, had a little money, bought what ended up becoming gigantic sources of resources for very, very little money, and set up what we would have called in American history trusts. There was Gazprom, which controls natural gas. There's Lukoil, Yukos oil, which controlled the crude oil. Russia, by the way, is right now is the largest world's exporter of energy, the largest exporter of crude oil. Actually, I think they just surpassed Saudi Arabia. They have been the second largest, and the largest exporter of natural gas. There's a whole bunch of gas pipelines that come across here. Now, the Europeans were trying to become independent of the Middle East. You can actually see Saudi Arabia over here. Here's the Gulf. Lots and lots of, here's Iraq, obviously very, very unstable. Tried to become free of this Middle East dependence on Middle East oil by turning to Russia, and a whole bunch of pipelines were built, piping gas, natural gas to Europe. Natural gas, by the way, Europe is very, very worried about global warming, and natural gas is probably the fossil fuel that has the least carbon emissions. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm probably going to have to turn away. I'm going to reduce there, going to bring up a map, and I'm going to move a little, or I'm going to press the button and reduce myself. And what you see over here, and of course, I can still have a pointer. This is a map of the Russian pipelines for natural gas. As you can see, there's just a whole network of them, tremendous natural gas fields out here in Siberia, up here in northern Russia, and even some in central Russia over here. And Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan are over here, and there's entrances to the Russian pipeline system. And then there are pipelines that go all the way to China. So the Russians have extensive natural gas pipelines, and these are the pipelines that go to Europe. There's been a real conflict between different European countries They've even talked about old Europe and new Europe, which was the Rumsfeld phrase about Eastern Europe that supported the U.S. in the Gulf War, and the older countries of France, Germany, Western Europe that didn't support us in the Cold War. Rumsfeld kind of made a flip joke about old Europe versus new Europe. But old Europe and new Europe have completely different viewpoints of how to deal with Russia. I'm going to click back to the map. Oh boy. Okay, I'm going to minimize. See if it's going to let me, and it did. Good news. Okay, now I got my map up. Now I'm going to bring me up. All this is without a staff. I am my own engineer, as I keep on pointing out. As you can see, there were big, giant blue lines that came from basically the Ukraine over to Germany and down through Hungary, down to the Balkans, and then one across the Baltic Sea from Russia. All these are basically bringing Europe into the energy orbit of Russia and making Putin and his regime one of the richest oil and gas, natural gas exporters in the world. Basically, if you go to Moscow right now, there's just tremendous casinos, fancy restaurants, armored limousines, and little old men come out of the armored limousines with beautiful girls on their hips, and bodyguards with bulges in their suit jackets, just kind of like Chicago in the 1920s. One thing that Putin did do is there were mafia wars during the Yeltsin period. Lots of people get shot right on the streets in St. Petersburg and Moscow, the main cities of old Russia. And Putin put a stop to it. He shot up a lot of the mafia, really forced the mafia only to shoot at each other and only behind closed doors, and to leave especially foreign businessmen alone. So he basically recreated the economy. There was a collapse in the late 90s where the ruble collapsed, and under Putin, the ruble came back, plus Russia became awash in all this money. Who benefited first? Well, there's a guy called Khodorkovsky. He was head of Yukos Oil, and he was a big exporter. He was actually selling oil fields to Western companies, which is what everybody does, and taking interest back. Putin basically threw all the management of that company in jail. Gazprom had been taken up back over by the Russian government, and Gazprom took over. They basically threw the head of Yukos Oil in jail, auctioned off the pieces of it, and by coincidence, Gazprom, which is a Russian government-owned gas company, ended up buying Yukos Oil, and they had previously taken over Lukoil. So basically, an energy trust has been recreated. Meanwhile, the oligarchs in charge of the media, Media Most was the big independent media company. They were taken over by companies that were fronts for Putin. So the media in Russia has basically been taken back over by the Russian government. And what you can see is a very slow eroding in Russia of what could have been a democracy, what could have been capitalism, and it's becoming more of an authoritarian government. Even though this is not a communist type government, the Russian Orthodox Church is definitely favored. They built a gigantic and very, very beautiful Russian Orthodox cathedral in a place where there had been a cathedral. The cathedral had been blown up by Stalin, turned into a swimming pool. Actually, a lot of the people missed the swimming pool, would have liked to have had it back. But I've been in that cathedral. That cathedral is absolutely gorgeous, covered with icons. So as Russia becomes an authoritarian government, it actually is not like it was. It's not turning back to communism, but it's more turning into, it's hard to say, kind of a one-party system, but with elections. They're still going to have elections, but they won't really have an independent media. And basically, the interesting thing is going to happen next year because under their democratic constitution, the president of Russia was not allowed to have himself reelected over and over and over again. And basically, Putin can't be reelected next time, so we'll see whether is he going to pick a successor? Is he going to change the constitution the way Hugo Chavez did in Venezuela and make himself president for life? Is he going to step away, put in a successor who's a puppet, rule from afar for 4 years, and then set himself up to run again? It's really hard to say. But Putin's party is basically consolidating all the levers of power back. Now, the Russians don't have KGB anymore. KGB was the old Soviet secret police, but they had a successor, which is called the FSB, which is the Federal Bureau of Security or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what the Russian words mean. And the FSB is kind of turning back. During Yeltsin, it was like an FBI, and it was trying to keep tabs and control over the Russian mafia. But now it's kind of going back and turning into a kind of a KGB or secret police kind of a thing, but not party or ideological based. It's one thing, Russia is not going back to being communist, but it is going back to being one-party authoritarian government. Egypt has kind of a similar thing where they have the Arab Socialist Union and the Mubarak family kind of controls it. They don't really have capitalism and so on and so forth as we know it, where independent businessmen can take over big business and buy them out and so on and so forth. Foreign companies can come in. Mexico, before it just had an election where another party came in for about 60 years. It was controlled by the PRI, which is kind of an authoritarian party that controlled the unions, the media, but there was some level of free speech and so on and so forth. But one party kind of always won, what a surprise, the election. And if you wanted to start a business, you had to make your deals with the local governor, so on and so forth, and then with the PRI. And that's kind of what Russia's turning back into. Favors the Russian Orthodox Church, kind of favors Russian nationalism, authoritarian. They've taken over the media. Now they've taken over the greatest source of income, which is the oil and gas industry. Oil and gas is always a problem, energy in general, because it makes very, very few jobs and produces an incredible amount of money. Unless you have a very, very fair system so that money can go to schools and help people and healthcare and so on and so forth, you end up with tremendous concentrations of wealth and power, very, very small groups. That's kind of happening again around Putin, his political party, and so on and so forth. He has been opposed by Kasparov, who is the greatest Russian chess player. And he's become kind of the symbol of the opposition. He was just arrested very recently. He's been banned from traveling outside of Russia and escaping. So Russia's going back. And then in February, there was a speech by Putin, and people called it the beginning of the Second Cold War, because Putin compared America, said that America was trying to take over the world, and compared us to Nazis and so on and so forth. And that was a very, very negative thing. Now there's going to be a big summit. In fact, it's already started with the European Union, and Condoleezza Rice will be there. That's right over here in the Volga region at the city of Samara. And it looks like more and more tension is going to occur. Putin just got the president of Turkmenistan to agree to run all of their natural gas and oil through Russian pipelines and not down across the Caspian Sea directly to Turkey and Europe. So my name is Reed Silverne. The name of the show is Fed Pride. Reason it's called Fed Pride is because I'm a federal worker and proud of it. Thank you very much. That's my show.